we have a great, just a fantastic speaker, and the time is just fantastic. If you watched Fox News, CNN, or any other news things this morning, you'll see it was all about elections. Yes, am I right? Yep. They were talking about the Soviets going in and doing this, and how safe our elections machinery is, and just, I mean, I could just write a dozen questions down there. So if you guys watch this, I'm sure you're going to have a lot of questions for Vona. Vona's been with us. Her husband, her late husband, or former husband, was the Pachyderm County Republican chair at one time. So she's been to Republican caucuses, and she's been to conventions and just about everything. So we're lucky to have her. At this time, I think your resume is about 10 pages long, but I'm just going to say, this is my friend Vona, and she's going to talk about elections.
Well, it's good to see all of you again, and I did bring my staff. This is my right, my left, my arm, and my brain, and everything there is in the office. So, Rudy Ordivas is the election coordinator. Kathy Pyburn, Medium Rodrigo, and Adriana Marin are election clerks, and they are very dedicated, very hardworking, excellent people to be blessed to work with each day. And I know there are some of you out in the audience that serve as election poll workers. If you will, raise your hand, and you guys give them a great we also have some volunteer deputy registrars, which is also an extension of our office. If you do that, you'll raise your hand as well. Kat, aren't you doing that yet?
I have, but I'm not. I'm expired right
now. But they do help us in a lot of ways. They come in when we've had presidential elections and help us in the office because we had so many people walking in to register, and go out and do it at hospitals and nursing homes and so forth. So thanks to all of those that help make it work. And we're always looking for people that are interested in working as poll workers and so forth. So if you're interested in doing that, you can let Rudy know and he'll get you on the list. When Fred called and asked me to speak today, he gave me some specific things he wanted to have discussed, and I'm going to try to address those, and then we can go on from there. He was curious about turnout versus registered voters in some elections that we've had. So the top sheet of the handout that I gave you, I went back and I looked at different elections that we've conducted and when they were conducted and so forth. And it will show you the turnout versus the registered percentage and the percentage of people that turned out for that election. The ones that are bold are what we consider county elections. In other words, you might have federal, state, county, school boards and so forth in those elections. And then where it says COSA, that'll be the schools and cities. And if you're not familiar with the pattern, in even numbered years, we have our primary runoffs, and our general in November. And in odd years, you have the May city schools, and then you have constitutional amendments if they are moved forward from the legislature. It's not uncommon to also have had city elections in the primary year. But I think we've kind of moved away from that through some steps that the city's taken, and I think that's going to be better for everybody. I think they're going to land where they'll be mostly in odd years unless they're doing some kind of special charter amendment or something. So as you can tell, our percentage of turnout is very low. And that goes across everywhere, all across the state and so forth. And you can also tell which ones are the most popular. What elections are those if you look at the percentages?
Presidential.
Presidential. Everybody thinks they have to vote for the president, and I never have completely understood that because who has the most direct impact on our day-to-day lives?
City.
The city. They are going to be passing laws that will tell us certain things we can do in certain areas. And I know when they have some real hot issues, it kind of gets everybody's attention because I'll never forget when they were doing the smoking ban, and all the people that were registered in the county and not in the city were coming in and, well, why can't I vote? I come in and I spend money in the city, but you're not registered in the city, so you don't vote. So anyway, that's kind of the trend that we see. Our registered voters run anywhere from 50,000 to 65,000 at times. Presidential is often a lot busier. And I remember the first, in 2008, on the last day to register to vote, we had 800 people walk into the office, just walk into the office to register to vote. I never did calculate what we had this year, but we had a whole bunch, Another thing that Fred asked me about was what does it take to, what are your qualifications and residency requirements and so forth to run for office? And so I started with the city, and I got this from the city charter, and it talks about the different terms of office, and it talks about the qualifications in section 9. Most of those are the same as it would need to be a registered voter, but you do need to be a resident of the city and a resident of the single member district. And it goes on to say that whatever the law requires, which we have laws that come to us from the election code, from the education code, from the government code. You know, there's a lot of codes that all of us folks that work in county government or in city government or school government or whatever, there's a lot of codes to look at. You guys have to look at how many different codes do you deal with on a daily basis? Several, yeah. So anyway, in the election code, it also goes on to say that you must have been a resident of the state for a year and a resident of your district for 6 months. And so that's what the city does as well. So if you ever want to run for city office, you need to be a resident of that district that you're running for 6 months and a resident of the state for a year. I went on into and grabbed the school district for SAISD as well, and that's down at the bottom. And you'll find that they're pretty much running just like the city did, although they did include in what they had on the website the residency requirement, which is on the next page. It says residency, and so I did confirm with the city that they do honor that same length of time, and they do. So you also have your Texas Constitution you look at. It's just amazing all the different things that govern our laws and so forth. You can keep on going through, and there's a page that looks like this. And this is from the Secretary of State's website, and this gets more into like our U.S. representatives and senators, governors and so forth. And you'll find that there's a little bit of difference in some of these offices. Most of them have a 6-month to 12-month district requirement. Although you will note that district judges have to be 2 years in a district, and criminal district judge has to be 2 years. And then there's requirements for the state, and governor has to be 5 years in the state. So if you're ever curious, there's also some age requirements that I thought were kind of interesting. And whether you had to be a lawyer and so forth, and then it talks about where this is cited and what their terms of office are. So I thought that might be kind of interesting for you. It goes into some different things that they have, and what I had to do to get this for you guys, I had to combine 2 different years. So you'll notice that I did a strike through of some dates and so forth, and that was just to indicate that there usually is a date associated with it depending on the year. Because some years you have some offices on it, and some years you have other offices on it. For example, in Tom Green County, one of the even numbered years, all of our JPs run, and then the other even numbered year, all of our constables run. And so that kind of is a little bit different. And I made a note to you that it's from 2016 and 2010 is where I grabbed this information from. But I tried to cite for you wherever I got it from, so that if you're ever curious, you can actually go on the internet and kind of look some of this information up and so forth. Different types of elections that we conduct, because I gave you the list of elections that we have conducted, and some of these for the school districts have been trustees, and some of them have been tax rollbacks, and some of them have been bond elections and so forth. And so I don't know if you know what all those things mean, so I gave you more information than you ever care to have it probably, but at least it's there if you do want to have it. We have conducted several tax rollbacks for the schools. We have conducted several bond elections. Was that a bond election that they did for the sunset thing years and years and years ago, do you know, Mayor?
Are you talking about the Hudson sales tax?
Yes, sir.
Yes, yeah,
It's a bond.
Yeah.
And so I've kind of got some information about the different kinds of elections there. Trustees, when we do candidates for trustee elections for the school board, they do not have to have the majority to win. It's whoever gets the most votes. And so oftentimes you'll have 2 or 3 candidates that are going to be elected for the smaller school districts. Now, SAISD actually does it by single member districts, and then we have 1 at large. So whoever gets the most votes, if we have 2, then those 2 are the ones that go on to the school board. The rest of the ones that have to have the 50.001% to get the office, if they do not achieve that in the first election, then they go to the runoff, much like what we're doing in single member District 6 this time. It was mentioned about the early voting dates. I just want to remind you the first 4 days, the 26th through the 29th, will be 8 to 5. And then we'll be 7 to 7 on the 30th and 7 to 7 on the 3rd. And I know Mayor Morrison took a lot of heat when we did a runoff the last time, not this time, but the time before last, because it landed on July 4th election. He and the city council members all got, why are we doing it on July 4th? It's a holiday weekend, that doesn't make any sense. So I just want to kind of give you guys some insight into how we pick the dates that we choose. The election code prescribes that any of our folks that are federal postcard application voters or FPCA voters, usually it's military, they're sober and away from home, and they're trying to get a ballot by mail. We are required to mail those ballots 45 days before an election. So when you sit down and you look at your calendar and you try to calculate what day you need to have the election on, so forth, the early voting period that you have to have, the filing periods, all the things that go into it, it often lands you much further out than would normally have seen in the past. I think in the past we did the election in May and then we did the runoff in June. And so the first time we actually calculated the 45 days, it was like, man, that's going to be a long time. And it didn't make a lot of the citizens happy. I see you nodding over there. You guys remember that. This one we actually stretched out just a little bit further so that we could kind of stay away from July 4th and make it a little bit easier for everybody. But that's what we're bound by, and that's why we end up on the election dates that we do. Now, the problem is you'll hear about other counties that are not complying with that 45-day. I think Taylor County just did their runoff last weekend. But the city, and I thank them for their support on this, works to comply with the election code and giving our federal postcard voters the actual amount of time that they're due to get their ballots and get them back to us. So if you can thank them for anything, thank them for that, because they do very much help us in fulfilling our obligations and so forth that we're bound by on the elections. So Fred, did I cover all the criteria you gave me? Okay, so now the floor is open. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Back when they had the runoff for the, I think Lane Carter and the Grindstaff and the chief of police, I live out in Great Creek and all had the Great Creek election poll open. And my sister came out, she lives near the Coliseum, and she said she forgot to vote, so I sent her up there, and I think she said she was the second person. So why, do y'all do that all the time? Because, I mean, it wasn't a county election or anything like that, so I thought it was kind of strange. I even dropped in just to see if I could vote on something in case I missed
And
out
they
on
didn't let you,
something.
did they?
They wouldn't let me
No,
vote,
they didn't let you. And that's an excellent question, and I thank you for that question. You guys may or may not remember, we implemented what they call countywide polling places. We call them vote centers in November of 2014. And that was an effort to try to make it more convenient for our voters. You could go anywhere, you didn't have to be precinct driven. In other words, if you're registered in this precinct, you have to go to a specific place in that precinct. And if you were in the wrong one, then you got to go to the other one or vote provisionally and not have it counted and so forth. So I was really quite excited when we were able to implement the vote centers. And it's a new thing to us. We're kind of growing our wings as we go and finding out what works best. The city has again been very supportive of us in trying to keep consistency, which is one of the things I liked about the vote centers, because we also were having where this election you vote here, but this election you vote there, and then you might go back for the next one here, and then the next one you might vote in a whole different one. And so our voters were like, I never know where to go vote. And so that was another thing we were able to achieve with the vote centers, is we were trying to keep the same ones open all the time so the voters knew, hey, I can go there and vote. And so the city was supportive and said, okay, we're going to keep them open. We did look at that when you're talking about And we had Cristobal open, and we had Wall open, and we had Very Best open, and Great Creek. Those are our 4 rural boxes that we have. None of them did very well. None of them did very well. I think Very Best had 1. Cristobal had 2, you know, and so we kind of custom discussed it on this last election that we're doing now and said, you know, let's try it with just the district area, although I did ask them to kind of throw in MHMR or the bus depot. Because you would not believe how many people come in on election day to try to vote in the office. We do early voting there, but we don't do election day there. And so they don't quite grasp that, so they were coming in. And so when I was talking to the city clerk, I said, can we please have one close by? For those folks that are coming in saying, I want to vote, we can at least send them somewhere close and not have to send them clear across town. But I really, you know, if you guys don't like the concept that we're using with vote centers, please let us know. But I really think it has been so successful for our voters. And I know it has reduced the number of uncountable provisional ballots that we were processing. So we're looking at it, and we'll kind of experiment with it for a little bit, but bear in mind that we were looking for consistency as well.
Okay. That's why I figured if, you know, to outline voting centers, you know, you have 1 or 2 people, then you might say, well, because I felt sorry for the people that work there, they're there from 7 to 7.
Well, you know, we're there to serve, whether it's 1 or whether it's 500 or, you know, however many. I remember one primary runoff, I was the only one that voted the entire day, and some boxes came in and didn't have anybody. But at least we're there to where if a voter wants to vote, we can serve them. Yes, Tony?
Vona, first I'd like to commend you and your entire staff for the wonderful job you folks do for us.
Thank you.
We're fortunate to have you all. My question is got to do with the security of the ballot, the votes that are done. We've heard a lot of talk here recently, especially at the national level, about the hacking and all of that jazz that goes on there. What I would like to know, and maybe some of the other folks would too, hopefully, is what security measures are taken to make sure that the ballots are not tampered with, and particularly the computer people that write the programs for the machines that are used, both the electronic voting and even the paper ballot machine. What security measures are taken to verify that all those people are on the up and up? We know you are, and your staff is, but I'm not always very sure about those folks. Thank you.
Okay. Big question. Have y'all got the rest of the day? You know, I can't speak to everybody's procedures and policies across everywhere that voting goes on. But I do know that we're prescribed certain rules and regulations, and I do know that our voting machine vendors have to be certified. And they have to be certified, and it's very, very restrictive in what they do. And you've got to know there's a lot of checks and balances internally built into the system. We have the mobile ballot box, which is what's recording the boxes. It records the votes, excuse me. It records the votes. The machine itself records the votes. And whatever that machine is attached to is also recording the votes. So there's like 3 layers of recording of each vote that's cast on that machine that's happening. Not only that, but we have requirements to do sealing and recording those seals and documenting those seals. And this is across the state of Texas, is all I can say. None of our voting equipment in Texas is allowed to be connected to the internet at any point in time. Even the equipment that we're using to take those mobile ballot boxes to and tally and get our voting results, we don't even have internet in that room. We don't even have any of the network connections that is across the county in that room. It's a standalone room. It's got key swipe. We all have our key swipes assigned to us. We have to log when we go into that room. We have to log when we leave that room. We have a Windows password and we have a program password. And for being able to maintain the office, 2 staff members know the Windows and the other 2 know the program. So nobody knows all of the passwords. And at one time, I could honestly say I didn't know any of them, but through the progression of time, I do know them now. But we do have that security in place. There's also a thing called an ECM, and I can't remember what it stands for because I've used the acronym so long, but it has a piece built into it that when we're programming, or whoever builds the ballot and programs the ballot, it's assigning like an internal code to be associated with that election. And then we assign another code that we have to know to be able to program the machines, read the machines, do whatever we have to do with those machines. So there's a code that we don't know, but the system will go, oh, I need this ECM. Oh, it doesn't match. So if we try to do something with another election in our current election, it says red flag, can't do it. So I feel like some people have given it a lot of really good consideration and work to make sure that there are checks and balances in place. And sometimes it's a big pain in the derriere to try to do all the security measures, you know. It hurts the people that are trying to do it the right way. As to the people that are building the machines and so forth, they go through stringent security checks. And Rudy does a security check on the people that do certain things within our office. I don't know how many people know that we do that, but we do a security check on them as well. So I feel very comfortable that all of your election officials that I've dealt with across the state are really wanting to do a good job for you guys and wanting to do it right, wanting to do it well. And so I feel good that that's happening. The voter, sorry, Brad, I'll get you in just a minute. The check-in computers that we use to get you guys checked in, how many of us like that instead of those old big books that you have to flip through? Those are connected to the internet, and that's strictly because of the vote center environment. We have to know if Rudy goes and votes here and then tries to go and vote over there. But they do go through firewalls. We do have protection because it's going into our server. There's protections on all of those, passwords and so forth. So I hope that's answered your question, made you feel a little better, but
Pretty comprehensive.
good. Yes, Fred, I'm sorry, John.
This morning at the congressional hearings, the Director of Homeland Security said, his statement is, the Russians did break into our election system. What was he mean? What did they break into, and what is he talking about?
I could not answer that question because I'm not in that situation. I don't know what they're finding and what they're dealing with. But, and I don't know how all the states do all of their business. Some of them may have their voting stuff connected to internet at some point. I really do not know the answer to that question, Fred, I'm sorry. But I do systems, and I do know that we got a note from the Secretary of State, that has released the same information you just stated, that there is evidence that they did get into some of the systems. And the Secretary of State has said that there is Federal Bureau of Investigation and several different folks looking at it. And if there is any indication in any way that any Texas county was affected by that, they will be contacted and worked. It will be worked on with that group to see what needs to happen. Praise God, we haven't had that knock on the door. John?
Wait, I don't have a question, I just want to make a statement. If y'all remember several years ago, before Vona went to work in the county, had an election that was a total disaster. And I think it was a big embarrassment to the county. And they hired Vona, and ever since then, everything has gone very smooth.
I think it hasn't always gone smooth, and I'd be a little more distrustful if it had been 100% smooth, but thank you for that, Fred, I appreciate it.
We appreciate what you do.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, John?
In reference to making sure that the elections are counted correctly, if you address the LAT.
Yeah, we do what is called an LAT, or logic and accuracy test, and that is required across the state of Texas as well. That you take each piece of equipment that will be recording votes, and you set up a ballot, and you vote some ballots, and you run it through all of the pieces of equipment, and we're required to do that before every election. Minimally, it's 3 times. It's before you start counting votes on election day, after you count votes on election day, and then there's the late ballot board that comes in to do any late ballots and provisional after that. We do it 5 times. We do it once before we mail the ballots by mail. We do it once before we start on election day, once after election day, once before the late ballot board meets, and then once after the late ballot board meets. And if at any point in time, what we say we should be getting for results doesn't happen, we have to determine why it didn't happen. And if it happens on election day, we have to contact Secretary of State, and then we'll have to be hand counting ballots. So it's got a pretty good check and balance system. Okay, what else?
Vona,
Yes, sir.
we're going to talk a little bit about the cost of typical elections and how the entities share that cost.
Okay, and this is a gentleman with vested interest here. We are able to contract with anybody that wants to do an election. In fact, by law, I'm required to do that, except in a primary year if the city wanted to do one and we didn't feel like we could manage it. And the primary, we could say, no, we can't do it, which means they have to go out and find somebody to do it for them, which we haven't done yet. And so in an election where we have schools and cities holding together, we prorate the cost, and the city will pay their portion and the schools will pay their portion and so forth. I don't think we'd come in under 25,000 for you guys yet. It runs anywhere from 20,000 to my November payroll, which we amped up because we all expected it to be slammed. My payroll alone for November was $44,000. So we just kind of split it among the people that have to cover that. Of course, the county covers any that are ordered by the county or the governor. So it's not cheap, and when you look at the turnout, sometimes it's very disheartening to see how much we spent to give the folks an opportunity to vote that didn't have to vote. Did that cover it?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else? Yes, Fred?
Vona, the paper this morning, the county's taking a $1.5 million budget thing. I know you guys are always fighting for nickels and dimes. Are you at 100% personnel, and do you have all the proper equipment and everything you need?
Sure.
You don't have to be.
That's a loaded question, isn't it?
It is a loaded question. These guys just did their budget hearing, and we're all hearing, okay, what can you cut, right? What can you cut? And I'm having to do a makeup because I under budgeted for my payroll in November, and I had to cover that out of other line items this year. So as a result, thanks to the good work of the staff, we're making it so far on the budget that we have. We haven't had to go and get any contingency funds, which aren't there anymore, by the way, because we've been outsourcing prisoners to other counties, and we've got capital murder trials to beat the band, and Sheriff Hunt's doing too good a job over there bringing everybody into the county jail. But anyway, you know, unfortunately, and I think I wouldn't get any disagreement from these guys, our judicial costs are a lot of what the county has to deal with. And so I have always been blessed, Fred, I have always been blessed by when I needed something, the county supported me. And, but I've also tried to be a good steward and not go out for anything that we didn't need. And I think that most of the people in the county do that. I don't think you have a lot of folks in the county government that are, oh, well, I just need this, I'm gonna go get it, for the most part. I think we all are really trying to spend your tax dollars well. I am fully staffed, thank God, and there's a lot of counties our size that are not blessed with the amount of people that I am. But if you don't know, we do more than elections. We do voter registration and everything as well. I know we all know that our voting equipment was purchased in 2005, and it's computers. And so, pray for us every time you get a chance, that it keeps working. Because I don't know where any money's going to come from. It was $850,000, I think, when we bought that equipment in 2005. And that was with federal money. There's no federal money coming this time from the equipment. So counties are struggling and trying to figure out how they're going to be able to do anything with the equipment. So I know the judge knows it's there. I know the commissioners knows that it's there. But we're going to have to start thinking about it on new equipment at some point. But Hart does build a really good product, and I'm very happy that we have them as our vendor, and that we have Votech as our voter registration vendor. So they are very supportive, and anything that we need, they are right there to help us. So, okay. Anything?
What's the life expectancy of a piece of equipment? You're voting electronic voting.
They changed it, right? Originally, I think they were saying a lot less, but I think they came to realize that most of us are not being able to replace it. So it's kudos to Hart that they're willing to keep coming up with the parts to keep the equipment running. And as long as they're able to do that, I guess we're going to keep going until we can't any longer. They have a new product called Verity. Ours is Hart voting system now, and they have a new product called Verity, but we're going to have to go out for bids when we get ready to do voting equipment. And we'll try to let everybody know so you can come by and kind of see how it works and so forth. I remember we did that when we bought the Hart equipment. But I guess the best answer is we're on a wing and a prayer, and so keep praying for us. Yes, sir.
Over the last couple of years, I got thinking about the city elections that only the residents who have homes here can vote in the city elections. Like I said earlier, I live in Great Creek, but I've got a business here. So I collect city sales tax, I pay property tax for the schools, for the city. I buy, I shop here and everything, but yet when it comes time to vote for where my business is or for the council member, I can't do it. I can't vote for the mayor. I couldn't vote for the smoking ordinance. So I don't know who, if it's the city council.
No, it's legislated. It's legislated. They have to, that's part of the redistricting that we're going to get started looking at soon. Where they go out and they have to have certain, each representative, depending on what type of representative is, has to have a percentage of the population to represent. So they look at all the people that are in that district, whether they're registered or not. They look at those, everybody that's eligible to be a voter, and Luke, correct me if I get this wrong, that's eligible to be a voter, and they have to base the percentage that they're going to give to single member District 3 or 6 or 1 or whatever on that population. I think the legislature prescribes how many, and then the city has to work and the county has to work on aligning those precincts accordingly. And, I know it's very frustrating when you don't live in the district and you really want to participate. And a lot of people that have run for office are always amazed at people that don't live in their district that said they voted for them, but they couldn't. But anyway, it's legislated and it's mandated as to where you live, where you're claiming your residence to be is where you get registered and the issues you get to vote for. And so, yeah, I have the city, when it's a hot topic, like I said, the smoking ban was the biggest one I remember having people really getting in my face about, because they came in and they eat in the restaurants, they go to the movies, and they buy groceries inside city limits. They ought to get to vote for that. Well, you don't.
I didn't know for sure how complicated it would be to register, saying, okay, I don't live here, but I've got a business, so I can.
It's where you claim your residency.
Okay.
Yeah. And oddly enough, if you have your residence in 2 counties, you can choose which county you want to be registered in. But I was here in a house in Canada. Half of it's in Canada and half of it's in America. What a dilemma. Anyway. Okay, anything else, Fred? I maybe have exceeded my time on a great deal.
No, it got clarified, thank you.
Okay, it got clarified.
Okay. Guys, thank you so much for the questions.